Okay, doing chapter 11 of A Course in Miracles. This is God or the Ego is the name of this chapter. And this is section 7, the condition of reality. I'm remembering I got to look over here so you think I'm looking straight at you. Because if I look over here, I'm not looking straight at you. Anyway, the condition of reality, here we go. The world as you perceive it cannot have been created by the Father, for the world is not as you see it. God created only the eternal, and everything you see is perishable. Therefore, there must be another world that you do not see. The Bible speaks of a new heaven and a new earth, yet this cannot be literally true, for the eternal are not recreated. To perceive anew is merely to perceive again, implying that before or in the interval between, you were not perceiving at all. What then is the world that awaits your perception when you see it? Every loving thought that the Son of God ever had is eternal. The loving thoughts his mind perceives in this world are the world's only reality. They are still perceptions because he still believes that he is separate, yet they are eternal because they are loving. And being loving, they are like the Father and therefore cannot die. The real world can actually be perceived. All that is necessary is a willingness to perceive nothing else. For if you perceive both good and evil, you are accepting both the false and the true and making no distinction between them. The ego may see some good, but never only good. That is why its perceptions are so variable. It does not reject goodness entirely, for that you could not accept. But it always adds something that is not real to the real, thus confusing illusion and reality. For perceptions cannot be partly true. If you believe in truth and illusion, you cannot tell which is true. To establish your personal autonomy, you try to create unlike your Father, believing that what you made is capable of being unlike him. Yet everything true is like him. Perceiving only the real world will lead you to the real heaven because it will make you capable of understanding it. The perception of goodness is not knowledge, but the denial of the opposite of goodness enables you to recognize a condition in which opposites do not exist. And this is the condition of knowledge. Without this awareness, you have not met its conditions, until you do, you will not know it is yours already. You have made many ideas that you have placed between yourself and your Creator, and these beliefs are the world as you perceive it. Truth is not absent here, but it is obscure. You do not know the difference between what you have made and what God created, and so you do not know the difference between what you have made and what you have created. To believe that you can perceive the real world is to believe that you can know yourself. You can know God because it is his will to be known. The real world is all that the Holy Spirit has saved for you out of what you have made, and to perceive only this is salvation, because it is the recognition that reality is only what is true. Okay, this is called the condition of reality. So Jesus is essentially saying here that in order to know reality as it truly is, you have to meet its conditions. And what are those conditions? Basically, he's saying you have to want only truth. You have to want to see only as the Holy Spirit sees. And how does the Holy Spirit see everything? The Holy Spirit sees everything with complete love and forgiveness. Only loving thoughts. So, in other words, because only what is loving is eternal. And Jesus says, even our loving thoughts, we're still in the world of perception because we don't have only loving thoughts. We have sometimes loving thoughts, sometimes not. Why? Because we are still under the thrall of the ego and in the ego thought system. But if we really wanted only truth and we were just so fully wanting only that, we could touch that place and we could know it again, which is our true reality. So remember, there's a distinction that Jesus makes early on between knowledge and perception. Perception is of this world. We can perceive truth and falsity, good and bad. Basically, we can perceive all of the dualities of life, and we can decide which one we want at any given moment. That is perception, and we can perceive more in line with the Holy Spirit, and we can perceive less in line with the Holy Spirit. In other words, we can perceive along the lines of what Jesus is presenting in this course, which is we can start to see that everyone here is just like us, is our equal. Everyone wants to go home. Everyone wants love. Everyone is seeking it in their own way. And what we can offer everyone, including ourselves, is non-judgment, which is another way of saying forgiveness, which is another way of saying just being open to the fact that everyone is that loving being, just as we would like to see ourselves. And when we start to see more in line with the Holy Spirit, we actually meet the conditions of reality, which was what Jesus is talking about here. We meet those conditions and we make we prepare the way, in other words, for grace. We prepare the way for knowledge, and knowledge is not of this world. Knowledge, or gnosis, you could say, or jnana in Sanskrit, in the yoga tradition. Knowledge, jnana, gnosis, they all mean the same thing, which is knowledge that is not of this world, that is of the non-dual nature of existence, the oneness that is beyond all duality. So, and Jesus says that only the loving thoughts that we have are really, partake of that world of knowledge that is, you could say, the realm of God or the realm of eternity. So if we want to understand what that is, again, we have to meet the conditions by weeding out the thoughts that are not loving and working on, thinking in line with the will of God, or the thoughts of God, the mind of God, and along the lines that Jesus is presenting here in his course. As we prepare the way by making our thoughts more loving, more accepting, you could say, less judgment, more forgiving, we do prepare the way for the experience of knowledge. One interesting thing that Jesus is saying is that why, the ego is very crafty in a way. The ego does mix in the good with the bad, because if we really saw what the ego is, we wouldn't want it. So the ego has to, mix in some good with what it's doing, or some hope, to keep us, the carrot and the stick thing, where we're chasing the carrot. But if we really understood, and Jesus is trying to show us that the ego is not, we do not want the ego. Ego is not your amigo. So he's trying to show you that the ego thought system is insanity, and you do not want it. But to the extent that you think that it is going to give you what you want, you will stick with it. But Jesus is trying to save you time, save us all time here. And he's trying to say, you're going to keep going after that carrot, but you're gonna keep chasing it. This world, as you perceive it, offers you nothing. It is nothing. Only the eternal is real, and that is the only thing that will satisfy us. Because it is us, because it is our reality, it is our true nature. The world as you perceive it cannot have been created by God, for the world is not as you see it. God created only the eternal, and everything you see is perishable. Everything of this world, is Jesus saying that God did not create the world? That seems to be what he's saying. The world as you perceive it cannot have been created by the Father. Now, some people would take this and say, this does not mean that God did not create the world. It just means that God did not create the world as we perceive it. So all we have to do is clear our perceptions, cleanse our perceptions, make them more in line with the will and the mind of God, and we will see the world as it truly is. We will see the real world. Now, there's something to be said for that. Perhaps, this is why we need to keep reading the Course, because Jesus will keep unfolding this. Jesus will keep expanding on what he's saying. So rather than me saying something more right now, maybe I'll just leave it at that and say that let's leave this as an open question, because some people, in the world of A Course in Miracles, there are people that will say, the pure non-dualists will say, the world is completely an illusion, and when we wake up from the dream, it will disappear. And others will say, no, the world is not an illusion. It's our perceptions that are illusory, and that when we awaken, the world, it's only the world according to our distorted perceptions that will disappear, and we will see the world as a completely loving place. Let's leave that as an open question. I tend more to the non-dual perspective, but that's not to say that both of them can't be true in some sense. It seems to be that Jesus is saying is that as you awaken from the dream, the world will become more loving, because you will see things only from that lens of loving awareness. That does not mean that the world is not real. That does not mean that the world is real, actually. It just means that you are becoming more, you are seeing things more and more as they truly are. And it could be that you may get to the point where you fully meet the conditions of reality, and there is a transfer to the world of knowledge. And then you see things, and then you're back in the realm of reality or the realm of the eternal. How that works, I'm not sure if anyone here can really say. People can, they can give their experiences and their opinions. I doubt that there are many that could. They may have experienced it, but I'm not sure if they can fully relate or communicate what it is. It seems to be. Let me just say one last thing here, which is that I think there's, because it's outside of time and space, reality, it's something that you can experience, and you are in the eternal. You are in that eternal now. You go beyond the body, the mind, the ego. And you can experience that, and then you'll come back again. And there still may be work to do, but each time you have that experience, you're a little bit more free. Or maybe you have that experience and you're completely free, and you're just working through how to bring that, how to integrate that into your everyday experience. And it could be in some real sense that the world as we see it, not as we see it, but the world is, is just as real as that experience of being in that oneness for that eternal moment. This is a big, this is mind blowing because it because it's not an either or. It's like saying it's both. I don't know if I'm making sense, but again, we're going to go over this more as we go along in the course. Okay, but I think this is an important topic, and I'll be bringing it up again. Thank you for listening, and talk to you soon. We'll be back for the end of this chapter, the problem and the answer, and then we're done chapter 11.